The story that has sparked outrage all across the country. An appeals court has ruled that the father of a fallen Marine must pay $16,000 to a church group that protested his son's military funeral. We're going to speak to the father in a moment, but first, David Curley has more on this controversial case.
When Lance Corporal Matthew Snyder was laid to rest, this is what greeted his family. Members of a small Kansas church, mostly family members, protesting Snyder's and dozens of other funerals of soldiers.
America is doomed. God is your enemy.
In what seems like a bizarre twist of logic, the protesters claim the soldiers are evil because they defend a country that tolerates homosexuality.
You can't wave enough flags to bring that boy back.
I saw such a protest 4 years ago, led by the church's pastor, Fred Phelps.
You consider yourself a man of the cloth. These families feel like this is their private time and that you're invading their time.
Well, that's too bad, isn't it? They think I can't preach at times like this, and I think I can preach at times like this.
If a widow came to you and asked you to please stay away from my husband's funeral, would you take that into consideration?
No. Some maudlin widow, look, you're partly to blame for him being dead, woman.
When Phelps took his protest to Maryland, it was too much for Matthew Snyder's father, Albert. He fought back, suing Phelps, saying he didn't want other families to go through the same ordeal. He won in the lower court. But on appeal, Mr. Snyder lost. And there's more. The judge ordered him to pay court costs, more than $16,000 paid to the very man who interrupted his son's funeral. The church is quoted as saying it will use that money to pay for even more protests.
That is an outrage.
Fox's Bill O'Reilly and thousands of others are coming to the defense of Al Snyder, some offering $10, others more.
And I will pay Mr. Snyder's obligation.
This isn't over. The Supreme Court has agreed to hear Al Snyder's case that these protesters caused him emotional distress as he tried to bury his son. For Good Morning America, David Curley, ABC News, Washington.
And joining us live now is Matt's father, Al Snyder, along with his attorney, Sean Summers. Welcome to you both. And first of all, Mr. Snyder, thank you for your son's service.
Thank you.
I can't imagine what a blow this ruling must have been to you.
It was. I think this one kind of hit harder than any of them. It was, you know, it was bad enough that they reversed the decision, but then to tell me that I have to pay them money so they can do this to more military funerals, that's what hurts the most.
Here's what Westboro's attorney said about that, Margie Phelps. She's the daughter of Fred Phelps, and she said this after the decision. They wanted to shut down the picketing, so now they're going to finance it. What do you say to her?
I find it unbelievable that somebody would say that. She's a little bit off.
But what do you say to those who, you know, there is a principle underneath this case, the principle of free speech. What do you say to those who argue that your son died fighting to protect the rights even of these hate mongers?
I find it insulting, George. I find it insulting to all the other soldiers that have died. I find it insulting to the families. I find it insulting to the military and to the veterans. It's just, so many people have died in this country throughout our history to preserve such a precious right. And to have a group of 80 people destroy it and mock it the way they are, it's a crime.
Take us back to that day, the day of the funeral. You say at first you were so focused on your son you didn't even notice the protesters, but then the next day it really hit you hard.
Well, basically what happened, we left the funeral home and we went to the church, and we knew that they were going to be there. They had published a letter that went out to media and to law enforcement a day or two before, and the letter had Matt's picture on it. It had a military coffin, and underneath the military coffin it had burial of an ass. Oh. Then it went on to proceed that they would be protesting at St. John's Catholic Dog Kennel. Because of that notice, media came out of the woodwork. We had to have a SWAT team at the church. We had Winnebago set up as a command central. We had state police, county police, we had sheriffs. It was just a nightmare. They positioned themselves about 30 feet from the main entrance of the church, and they held signs that said, "God hates you, you're in hell, Semper Fi fags." They even went as far as to hold a sign that depicted two men having anal intercourse.
My goodness.
Because of them being at the main entrance, we had to go in through a service entrance of the church so that it wouldn't be seen.
And now, Mr. Summers, this group has been, you've been ordered to pay $16,000. They're asking for another $98,000, and now this is heading to the Supreme Court. Are you confident of your chances in the Supreme Court?
We're very confident of our chances in the Supreme Court. We think, of course, everyone has a right to free speech, but when they took their so-called rights to Mr. Snyder's son's funeral, they impeded upon his rights. They had the whole country to protest that day, but they chose to travel all the way to Westminster, Maryland to intentionally harass Mr. Snyder.
You know, there's been an outpouring of support for you from all across the country, and one of the people leading the charge is Bill O'Reilly, offered to pay the cost himself, and we actually have him on the phone this morning. Bill, you there?
Yeah, George, how you doing, man?
I'm okay. What do you want to say to Mr. Snyder this morning?
Well, look, I mean, this is not just a Mr. Snyder who we had on the Factor a couple of years ago. We respect him and we understand what he's going through, and he's right. But this is about the country. I mean, these people, let's start with what they did. They committed a crime. What they did was they disturbed the peace. That's a crime. And you start there and you work backward. So they have no right to disturb the peace and to intentionally inflict distress on Mr. Snyder and his family. They have no right there. They can say they have the right of freedom of speech, assembly, whatever, but they have no right to commit that crime. Now, if President Obama were attending a funeral there and you had demonstrators, lined up outside the church to, protest Mr. Obama or George Bush or whatever president, the Secret Service and the authorities would have moved them back. Okay? We all know that. That's the key to this. If the president can get those kind of protections, Mr. Snyder and his family are entitled to them, because we are a country that does not discriminate between our leadership and everyday folks. So I decided that I'm going to take this up. I think Mr. Snyder's attorney is correct. I think the Supreme Court will rule that these people committed an act that is not protected, and everything will fall into place. But you've got to question these three judges. I mean, this is just an abomination. So we're going to help out the Snyder family. We want them to take it to the Supreme Court. We want the country to rally around them. The American Legion is going to step up. And this Phelps crew, these are haters. They have no right to do this. And the system, if the system can't deal with these people, then the system can't deal with anything. So let's be clear here about what's going on.
Mr. Snyder, I saw your face when you heard the bill was on the phone.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me and my family and all the other families that have gone through this and the ones that will still go through this.
Well, Mr. Snyder, look, it's not just me. I mean, it's all decent Americans are behind you. And this is a cause worth fighting for. Just like the cause that your son died for, basically his country, this is an extension of that. But I'll tell you what, our judicial system needs to wise up. This is awful. And there is no doubt that a crime was committed here, and there is no doubt that these people went out of their way to hurt fellow Americans. And the system's going to let it stand? No. So we're going to win this fight. We'll take it to the Supreme Court, and we hope our system won.
The Supreme Court takes it up in October. Thank you all very much for your time this morning.
All right, George.
We want to know what you think. You can tell us on our shout-out board at abcnews.com.